What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Yellow Pages Bookcast. We're your hosts. This is Steven.
This is Jason, and this is the podcast where we go over Asian and Asian American fiction and all around enjoy a good read. So we'll be doing a short review, character breakdowns, casting choices if applicable, and we'll discuss themes and what we enjoyed and what we didn't.
And this next book is actually one that you chose since I did the last book, Monstrous Volume 2. And this particular book is The Sword of Kaigen. Now, Jason, could you break down exactly why you chose this book?
I mean, there's only one reason. It's like there was good buzz. It was getting good reviews for a relatively indie author, at least to me. So I was intrigued. So yeah, I read a brief synopsis. I'm like, oh, sounds like a entertaining read. So that's basically the only reason.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break this down a little bit, give a non spoiler review of this, or not review, but overview of the book. So just a quick plot description, which is hard because it's like 600 pages, a lot of different characters. Actually, this is really hard. What?
Yeah, I'll take a stab. So
Yeah.
it basically follows, yeah, like a lineage of warrior, like a warrior clan.
Right.
So they're pretty steeped in like warrior tradition, history. But then some things come by that kind of throw you a curveball. Basically, not everything's as it seems. So
Right.
basically, the book's about like how does this family or village who's been raised and always believed in something, how do they kind of cope with like information that doesn't really jive with what they've known? So it kind of follows them, and it just follows their struggles and their battles, and yeah, it's pretty character driven.
Very much so.
Yeah, and one thing that stood out to me, it was like not a lot goes as you would expect, which to me
Yeah.
is a good thing. So yeah, that's like kind of hard to give a non-spoiler overview, but it's like a epic fantasy. There are some fantastical elements in here. Um,
Yeah.
think Avatar: Last Airbender crossed with The Last Samurai. Like that might give you a good feel for like the magic and the powers and the environments that this book
Yeah.
has.
I was actually thinking Sub-Zero versus Scorpion, but like a clan.
Yeah, but they're more ninjas, and here I think our characters are more like samurai like.
Well, for sure. Yeah, for sure our main characters are samurai, but they do fight against like these ninja style villains
Yeah,
kind
we'll
of.
we'll, we'll get into them a little later on, right?
Yeah. Actually, I would like to bring up a couple of things though. I think you mentioned it, but the main characters are this family and they have some deep rooted secrets that the husband and the wife don't know about each other. And then at the same time, it opens up to this larger picture of a village. And like Jason said, it's like a martial arts centered village where they're the epitome of the warrior class kind of thing. And and yeah, it's definitely character driven. And I don't know. Hey, by the way, did you think of any casting before we even get to that?
No, I did not.
Okay, neither did I. So okay, we can do we can do that together later. Okay, so let's move on with our personal ratings of the book. Man, I'm kind of curious about how you rated this. I don't know. I kind of hovered around a 3.5 to a 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll round it up. I'll go with a 4. What about you?
Yeah, I was thinking of 4, mainly because, yeah, you're right. When I first finished it, I'm like, huh, that's it.
Yeah.
But then I like kind of sat on it and stewed on it, and I'm like, you know what? Like the story told, I think Yeah, I don't think it would have been served if it kind of ended in a different way. I think like the story conveyed and like the character arcs, it was like pretty. It was like better than I. It was like more than I was expecting.
Yeah. And not just that, what I really like about ML Wang, sorry, we forgot to mention that the author's name is ML Wang, but what I really like about this book is that she is able to create a world, and she's able to create like, now, I kind of asked you about this earlier, but like, so this book is pretty much influenced by Chinese, Korean, and Japanese culture. So she uses specific words for time and for distance that are not in English. So I think my question to you was, because Jason, you do speak, you did take Japanese, and you you do know some Korean, but do you know, like, for these measurements or for these particular words for time and for distance and stuff like that, is that actual Japanese or actual Korean? Because I know it's not Chinese, and I was just wondering if it was, or did she just create like these little minute details?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I I don't remember. I don't even know if we learned units of time in Japanese. If we
Oh,
did, then it's long forgotten.
we probably should have looked that up, because what I did like about it is the specificity of the time and the world. Because one of my complaints about Monstrous, and we keep going back to Monstrous, in terms of like the vocabulary, the colloquialism, and just the and just the just the talking, right? And it seems like the world is in a past time, but they're using current verbiage, like they use fuck, shit, like,
Yeah.
and they talk like they would be talking in a normal day. Whereas this book, it feels very specific to a certain time period, and it has a specificity to the world that I enjoyed very much. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, so I'm kind of interested if we did actually go back and look at like the dictionary for these terms in Japanese or Korean, if these are actually Japanese or Korean terms. But if not, I think it's amazing how she went with the specificity,
Yeah.
and yeah, just created a world pretty much.
Yeah. So it's also interesting because like I don't know about you, but I could identify influences. Like I mentioned the Last Airbender. It's pretty prominent here, but I like that it doesn't feel like just a straight ripoff. It's kind of like, oh, like we borrow some elements from here, but
Mm.
it's kind of like to me it felt greater than the sum of the parts. Like I think I butchered that, but it felt greater than like each individual thing. It just basically became its own creation.
So basically, it all added up to something greater, is what
Yeah,
you're trying
like
to say.
it still felt fresh, even though I could basically identify like, oh, like this is influenced from this and that. I
Yeah,
see influences from that and that.
yeah, I completely agree, and yeah, let's get into it. Let's just deep dive. Let's get into spoilers.
Well, hang on, let's do the plug first, right? So we each gave it a 4, which
Oh, right.
4 out of 5. That's pretty good. So yeah, like the one of my disappointments is that this is a standalone book, which it's fine, but I did a little digging, and apparently there were two other books in this universe
Yeah.
we haven't read, but apparently the series has been discontinued. So, should we dig deeper into this series, then there's like an end in sight. So, a little bit disappointing, but hey, like maybe those two books really tell the story to like maybe that's the sweet spot. Maybe there's nothing more to be told. So we have yet to find that out.
I did check that out as well, and I definitely thought that if she did a third book, she probably would have reincorporated these characters to that. I think it would have been much more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It We could discuss it later if we actually want to do the whole Theonite series.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Sword of Kaigen, by ML Wang, out now. I think um it's yeah, it's been out for a couple years now, but yeah, check it out, pick it up if you're interested in fantasy, something a little different from your usual, Western knights in shining armor.
Yeah.
Um, but hey, if you're expecting something like, a straight up story, like a traditional story arc, then this is pretty different. So I would just recommend to pick it up if you're just looking for something fresh in general.
Yeah. There's definitely a part of this book that is unexpected, and there's a lot of catharsis.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
But yeah, let's jump into it then. Spoilers, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so number one, I'm just gonna go ahead and say the ending was so unexpected because you expect that. So basically, what happens is there's this invasion by this Ranganese army, and there's people dressed in yellow and people dressed in black. If it's yellow, they're kind of novices. If they're black, you run away, right?
Yeah, those are the
And
elites.
we got a main character. His name is Mamoru. He's the son of Takeru and Mitsak
Misaki. Misaki.
Mitaki.
Yeah.
Yeah, Misaki. And basically, like this whole family, they're the head of the warrior clan of their town, and they're fighting against this enormous army. It's like waves upon waves of yellow and black. And Takeru, the father, and his brother Takashi, they're creating like these amazing like ice creatures, like an ice dragon, and they can create like ice daggers, ice swords. They're known for a technique that only their bloodline is able to do, called the Whispering Blade. And they're killing, they're fighting, and at one point, like Takashi tells Takeru to go help out on the other side, um, and basically Takashi gets massacred, and then Mamoru goes as well. He goes separately, and he also gets killed. But before he gets killed, he creates a whispering blade and kills his assassin, pretty much.
Yeah. So, my favorite part about that was like that was a pretty cool yet unexpected thing, but
Yeah.
it was basically it didn't come out of nowhere. Like a lot of, I think, an easy trap that authors fall in would be like a Deus Ex Machina, like, oh, on his death, because he was dying, like he managed to like accomplish this feat. But
Right.
here, like it's hinted at with his blood bending or whatever it's called,
Oh,
like
right, right.
manipulation. So like that's built up. So like at during his death, because he's bleeding so much and he has
Hmm.
like that, he becomes one with the mountain. Like he basically augments his ice skills with his blood manipulation. That's how he can do the his own version of Whispering Blade. It's like basically his frozen blood. I'm like, damn. So that was basically like built up. It didn't come out of nowhere, and it makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
it kind of made that moment like really great for me.
No, I completely agree. And the main reason why I'm bringing this up is because you have all of this violence going on, but at the end of the book, it's actually a very quiet, intimate relationship story about how you can overcome your regret, and not just your regret, but overcome your what is that, like deep sorrow.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
what is that when you're like super upset about like your child just passed away?
Grief.
Grief, yes, grief. And it really is about how a mother and a father can find themselves together again when they never even knew each other in the first place, and they can find love through all of this pain. So all of a sudden, you have all these massive fight scenes, and then at the end, it just goes quiet and intimate and longing for a better future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hope, and then
Yeah.
I would say like the climax of the story wasn't when Mamoru dies, right? It's
Yeah.
when Misaki fights Takeru like basically to the death.
That was so dope too.
Yeah.
Because okay, the whole after the fight, that's all I wanted to read. I just wanted to read like Takeru like manning up and just saying, "I'm gonna go fight the Renganese people and just get my bloody revenge and protect my family finally." But it wasn't even about that. It was about Takeru finding out that he is just a man and that he has all the follies of the man, even though like his abilities allow him to become one with the mountain. He realizes that that is not always a good thing, because once he becomes one with the mountain, he loses all emotion and he loses all understanding of people. And at the same time, he's able to feel like when people die. So he knew exactly when Takashi died or Mamoru died, and and he retreated into the mountains so that he didn't have to feel those emotions. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective and just a really interesting way of, because a lot of guys do this, don't we?
Yeah, like
We're
there's a
not
lot
very
of
emotional.
no, like what happened to him was it's very it's actually very common, right? Like
Yeah.
and this is kind of a tangent, but like it kind of reflects how men now, like back in the day, right? Like men, you're expected to provide and do this, do that. You basically have a role.
Right.
Now in 2022, there's a lot of men out there who aren't really needed in that role, so to speak. So
Yeah.
they're like lost, or they just basically never really learned how to overcome hardship,
Yeah.
because like it could be like from a variety of reasons. Here we can see like his father, like his wasn't his father who kind of like was kind of toxic to him, so he like kind of
Yeah.
was kind of damaged. So like yeah, like we can see and we kind of see how why he's like that, because for most of the story he's portrayed as like the villain, right?
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
like someone who doesn't understand, someone
he's
who's
like
like,
he's like a robot. He has no
yeah.
emotion.
Yeah.
He is not sympathetic at all. He doesn't care
Yeah.
about his family. Whereas, of course, as we learned, that's the opposite. He just didn't really know how to express, didn't know how to talk it out, didn't know how to like deal with all of that stuff that's holding him back.
Yeah. I agree. And another thing is that, like, at the very beginning of the book, you think Mamoru is going to be like a huge character, which he is. Even
Yeah.
when he dies, like there's still his lingering presence. But you're also introduced to Misaki, and all of a sudden, like there's like these tangents about Misaki's previous life as a superhero sidekick, which of course for me was like, yes, there's superheroes in this world,
Yeah.
because I grew up reading comic books, and Batman is my favorite superhero, so he had a bunch of superhero partners like Batman, Robin, blah blah blah. And the funny thing is, in this book, the hero, his character name is actually Robin, and then his alter ego is like Flamebird or something,
Firebird. Yeah.
Firebird or something like that, which is really
Uh,
close to, if you look into Superman lore. There's like a Nightwing, and then there's a I think there's a Thunderbird or something like that. Like these Krypton superheroes. But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. And not just that, ML Wang really creates a very strong portrayal for Misaki. And so you understand like her whole character. You understand her regrets and you understand her hopes. One of her regrets is just not staying and not choosing for herself her destiny, because she didn't actually want to marry Takeru. She wanted to be with Robin, you find out halfway through the book. But she trusted in her father and her mother's decision on who to marry. And this is kind of weird because it gets into like this idea of arranged marriages. And I know for me, I didn't have an arranged marriage, and definitely not for you. But like, it does prove a point that sometimes these things work out. Even even though you don't know each other, but like through the thick and the thin, if you're willing to be humble, like you'll actually find, or if you're looking to understand each other, you'll actually find like a common ground. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
It's exploring so many things all within 600 pages, and it has so many things going on. Okay, Jason, sorry, I'm just going on a tangent, but favorite parts. What are some other favorite parts for you?
So in the beginning, it starts out pretty much like your normal, like young enthusiastic heroes going to attend his first day of class. So you're like, my mind was like, okay, well, I've read this 1,000 times before. But then, oh wait, like shit, like they talk about cell phones. I'm like, wait, what? I thought we were in like ancient feudal times.
Yeah,
So it's like kind of throws in these curveballs that kind of keeps you awake.
yeah,
So there's that. There's also the whole misinformation thing, like, oh,
yeah,
the emperor is like weak, the empire is like a shell of its former self. I'm like, oh, so like these warrior villages are like kind of buffers between like the outside world and like this basically this super corrupt, like crumbling shadow of his former self empire, you know.
yeah,
So I thought that was interesting as well. And then trying to find like the real world parallels, like of course Kaigen slash Shirojima are like Japan and Korea. Then you have like Rangan, the Rangan Union, which is like China. Then you have, like India. I think Robin and his brother were from there.
yeah.
And then you have like I think the American equivalent, I forgot the name, but they were with the Empire representatives. You remember?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I don't remember their names. Yeah,
Yeah, I forget, but you have like your real world parallels. So I kind of had fun identifying them.
yeah,
Yeah, and then so yeah, like those little curveballs were pretty cool. Of course, the middle climax where Mamoru forms his final blood-based whispering blade, pretty epic. Um,
dude, the dragon was epic.
yeah, I had a hard time like visualizing it without making it funny. You know?
Can you actually? We should go back a little bit. Can you just explain Gia and just explain what exactly? We keep talking about their powers and stuff. Could you break that down real quick?
Yeah. So from what I know and remember, it's so think Avatar: Last Airbender, where you have the four basic elements, right? So it's a
Right.
little bit different here. So instead of earth, wind, or earth, air, fire, and water, you have ice slash water. Then you have wind. Then you have
And
fire.
fire. Yeah.
Then I believe there used to be a fourth, but they said it was extinct. So effectively, there's like three element types here in play. So the our main cast, the Kaigenese,
Yeah.
they're ice wielders. So which doesn't mean they only do ice. It's like water based. So I mentioned
Right.
blood manipulation. That's kind of water based.
Mm-hmm.
There's like more stuff they can do beyond ice, but it's primarily ice. Like the Whispering Blade is ice that's harder than steel, basically.
Right. And they use something called their Geo, which is like if we think about modern day martial arts, that would be like your chi, right?
Yeah, I think that lets them manipulate ice.
Right. And then so Takeru and his brother Takashi, what they're able to do is they're able to come together and create a freaking ice dragon.
Yeah,
And during this time, they can throw like the what is that? Like the scales, like the
yeah,
icicle scales.
yeah,
And so it makes for a super epic scene. There's another character who's Mamoru's teacher, who's one of the fastest swords people in the kingdom. His name is Dai, Yukino Dai,
yep,
and he's able to. Well, they're all able to like what is it? Throw like ice javelins and ice spears.
yeah.
What was Yukino known for again? Like
He was
his.
just really good at using his sword.
Okay, okay. So while you have these warriors, dude, what I really like is she pretty much like portrays the warriors as these epic heroes, and then she doesn't make the wives like two dimensional. You know?
Yeah, I mean they're basically. I think they're basically the main characters. Like
Yeah,
Misaki
yeah,
is pretty prominent in the first half, but Mamoru is the main character. But after he's gone, it's basically like clearly it's Misaki taking over as your
yeah.
primary character. But yeah, like
And
a
then
lot of the information is portrayed through the wives and their conversations.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like lust caution when they're playing mahjong,
Oh, I
and then they're
totally
just
forgot
like
about that movie.
yeah, and they're just looking at each other and gossiping, but there's something deeper beneath that you don't understand what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And then throughout the book, so there's all the wives seem to have like this hidden knowledge, right? So for example, Setsuko, who is Takashi's wife, she comes from like a fishing kingdom, right?
I don't know about Kingdom, like a fishing village.
Yeah, fishing village. And so she's actually very headstrong, very smart, and her relationship with Takashi is very different from Takeru and Mizaki, where they actually came together, they met each other, they fell in love rather than being arranged. And so you can see the difference between these two marriages, one where two people are open for discussion, and then the other where two people are closed.
Yep.
And not just that, you also have Hyori and Yukino. And so one of the sad things is during the whole Ranganese battle, Hyori, who is one of Mizaki's best friends, she gets raped by one of the Ranganese clans, and you find out she is pregnant.
Yeah. Then
And
then it's like, well, like whose baby is it? So
yeah,
pretty dark, uh,
yeah,
pretty visceral moment when you find out, oh shit, like why is it so quiet in her house? And then yeah, it's just yeah. But I
yeah,
thought
you
it was very interesting how they allowed the resulting child. So the Ranganese, they are wind manipulators, right?
right. Yeah,
So I believe they said this child was not able to manipulate ice, but she was like a wind manipulator instead.
right.
But she was allowed to like live amongst the village. So I was like very curious. I'm like, actually, I would be a very nice new direction to like continue the series because I like tell me more. Like
Yeah.
tell me how life is like growing up as like an outcast where you didn't do anything wrong. You're just there, but everyone like knows you and everyone like hates you, you know? So
Yeah, and you remind everyone of
yeah,
tragedy.
yeah. And you basically like, you have no power over that. Like, you're like, what? I was just born.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And one of the major reasons she doesn't die is because Mizaki is like, if anyone mistreats this girl, they'll have to answer to me. You
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
And hold on, hey, real quick, what was Mizaki's younger brother's name?
Oh shoot, he was pretty cool though. He has the
Yeah. Ah,
I don't
shoot.
remember his name, but he had like the fortress by the ocean, and he had like that huge sword.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we saw more of him, but I think they did a good job of keeping it focused on a select cast of characters and not really spreading itself too thin.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I bring him up though is he has a specific skill set that their family has. And what was it again? It was like he was able
It was
to,
blood manipulation.
right?
He can
Where,
make himself like strong enough to swing around that huge sword.
yeah, and it's weightless when he gets to that ability.
Yeah, basically.
And then not only that, Mizaki is able to use that later in the book when she fights Takeru,
Yeah, she
basically.
basically like enhances her physical abilities to a level where she can not only keep up with Takeru, who's probably one of the best warriors like in the book, but
Yeah.
probably I think she does beat him, right? Like fair and square.
Yeah, the way I read it at the very end is he pretty much like lets her win because he's trying to find out like r- do you remember they make a big point about it this cuz it's like two or three paragraphs, but I think he could have blocked her but he chose not to because he wanted to see if she was going to kill him or if she was going to like work with him.
Could he have blocked it though?
I think so.
Hmm.
But that's my interpretation. I don't know. What did you think she won fair and square then, right?
Um, I mean, I think if she really wanted to, she probably could have won. But there's always like a, I think, okay, so I know there's a part where she was basically testing if Takeru's Whispering Blade would be able to withstand her own weapon, which was like a really unique one.
Yeah. It's like
Remember,
that
like it was made of
special
a,
metal.
yeah, it's that special glass that actually it's revealed towards the beginning where you're fed a tidbit like not everything is as it seems,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty cool. I thought she was like testing him, and then he did like manage to shatter her sheath,
Yeah.
which is also made of the same thing.
So he technically could have destroyed her sword.
Could have,
Yeah.
but they also, I think she also said the sheath wasn't like as strong as the blade though,
Oh, it
because I
no,
remember
the
like
sheath is inside. The metal is inside the sheath.
yeah, so it's like a small part of it.
Right,
So like
right.
could it have cut like an entire sword made of that? Like who knows?
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I completely I got you right there. But yeah, who's your overall favorite character?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say because
It's the Ranganese, right? Like,
I mean you have to admit like that like the one that got killed by Mamoru was pretty badass.
yeah,
Like
that's true.
he was like the best soldier. He was the one who actually when he was fighting Takashi and Takeru's ice dragon,
Yeah,
he like let himself get eaten and he destroyed it from the inside.
yeah. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I definitely think Mizaki is the best. She's the most
Yeah.
well rounded.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters that are cool. I mean, Robin was cool, but I feel like he's only there to serve a specific purpose.
Yeah, I
We don't
agree.
really we don't really spend a lot of time with him.
Yeah,
Um, what was Mamoru's friend's name? Like the Korean sounding one, like Kwang.
yeah.
I,
He doesn't
I
do much.
yeah, he kind of fades away in the second half.
Yeah,
But like it's kind of cool that it's kind of cool how him and his dad integrate themselves into the village. Because at first they're like outsiders. um yeah, when you're introduced to them, you're like, oh, I thought this was like a time traveler from like the future, because he's like wearing sneakers, he has a cell phone, he knows like all about the internet, and he's like
Yeah.
in this ancient village where they're still fishing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm like, what's this guy doing here? But yeah, he basically integrates himself into the village. But yeah, he doesn't really have like a full length arc like Misaki and the other some other characters do.
Yeah. His name was Kwang.
Yeah. Yep.
Kwang. Um, I really liked I really liked the younger brother of Mizaki just because I understood him and I liked his ability just to be able to get really really strong. And he definitely is a little more sympathetic than say Takeru. I also really liked Takashi cuz he's like that big brother that you wish you had.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, he also does some dick moves on Takeru, like making Takeru have to become a sword trainer at the school, which he didn't even want to do. He wanted to be like a legislator, or he wanted to work for the local government, pretty much.
Mhm.
But yeah, I j- so I don't know. Like I feel like most of the characters were well rounded. I kind of want to talk about so there's this long story behind the warriors and the forgers. Do you remember that?
Sort of. You mean the blacksmiths?
Yeah, the blacksmiths.
What's their name? The starts with a K, right?
I think so. But like overall, do you know that whole idea behind it? Like, could you explain it one more time?
Uh, I actually don't remember that part as much.
Okay, let's kind of sift through it real quick because pretty much like the Takeru's ancestors who created the Whispering Blade, their ancestor's whole family was massacred by this king, right? And then the blacksmiths. So the blacksmiths take the ancestor and teach him how to create a sword, right?
Hmm.
And then he goes to kill the king that killed his entire family. And I think that's also where he created the first Whispering Blade. And then the ancestor takes over the kingdom pretty much. And he always respected the blacksmiths because they could have because they could have pretty much betrayed him at any time, but they didn't. They honored him. And so he honors them. And for every generation, their sons and their grandsons go to the blacksmith's sons and grandsons and learn the art of forging weapons.
Mm.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like I said, I like this specificity. They create like this lore behind every single person, behind every single position. And then yeah, it's just yeah. I overall like there's so many good things to say about it. But like why do we only give it a 4?
I think it's because it's very unconventional. So I think the whole reconciliation is kind of taking away some points.
Hmm.
My the other cons that I had were some of the dialogue I thought was kind of like Monstrous, where it's like very modern. Like
Oh.
not a lot of like it kind of makes sense, but like I can't place like a lot of Misaki things that she says is like super modern.
Right.
And so like at first I'm like, well, this doesn't really make sense because she was raised like this way. But
Hmm.
then you think she was sent away to that school in, I'm guessing Europe or America, where she that's probably where she like got exposed to all these more progressive
Yeah.
ideas. So I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense, but it's still like very modern, like very 2022. Like things and ways to say. So to me, it was like kind of anachronistic in that sense.
Okay. Okay.
But it was for me, it wasn't a huge deal because I'm like, yeah, I do like the ideas behind it and like the whole struggle.
Uh-huh.
Just like the dialogue was, it was a little like it was a little spotty here and there. Um, and then what else? Yeah, it was also in the beginning. I had the same kind of the same issue as like the beginning of like volume one of Monstrous, where it's like very dense. There's a lot of
Yeah.
new words thrown at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That coupled with like the very conventional, like, ooh, I'm like a young hero on my way to school.
Yeah.
That was like kind of a slow start for me, but
Yeah.
as you get ramped up, it gets better because of those curveballs and the unexpected, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of because I didn't have that enjoyment like the whole way through. That's kind of why I didn't reach a five.
I gotcha. I think for me, it didn't reach the five because it didn't have that final fight scene that I really wanted to see.
Yeah, the action, like the thing. Another thing I really like about this is there's no gratuitous violence, right? Like there are like awesome action scenes, but there's a lot of consequences for each one,
Oh yeah.
which I think is it's like the right way to make action have punch, like
Yeah.
there's what's a good example? Okay, like some superhero movies, there's just action and it just doesn't have that visceral feeling because at the end of the day, like the stakes are super low. No one's gonna die.
Right.
Nothing's gonna change. And
Right.
like here, if you explore the fallouts of, like, well, they attack this, and you like I think she spent more pages on the aftermath than the actual battle.
Yeah. I agree.
So like that just makes it like yeah, it just makes it way more impactful.
You know what? Like the fact that you bring up a movie, I think the closest spiritually to this book would have to be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Hmm.
Because you have these hidden emotions from each other, and then you have this male lead who's trying to be strong, but then at the end of the day, it's a little too late where they finally find out that they could love each other. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you don't really know who's gonna win or who's gonna live or who's gonna die, you know?
yeah,
But the action is elegant, it's beautiful, it's not gratuitous, like you say. It's a lot of times it's one-on-one battles, but when there are more epic fight scenes, it's tastefully done, so yeah, that's a pretty good perspective. Yeah.
yeah. And one other point I wanted to mention was I thought I was like before so like basically the first half of the book there's not a lot of real action, like you see a lot of training sequences.
Yeah.
They're basically getting talked up a whole lot, but you
Yes.
haven't really seen them tested yet. So when the final battle came, I was actually really on the edge of my seat. I'm like, one side of me was thinking, oh, it'd be super hilarious. They're just like pathetic and they just get cut down in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That'd be like super hilarious.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they basically are like they walk the walk, like
Yeah.
they are the real deal. But that's just
And
like a thought I had, like, oh, I wonder, like, because like like they're being deceived, right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they're
you
being
have that
really
feeling.
so I was wondering like how they would actually match up against a real threat.
And I think you bring up a really good point, or you brought it up earlier about how Kwang, right? Kwang, the young boy, he has all these modern day tech, right? But when it
Mhm.
comes to the fight scenes, they don't have like guns and stuff, you know? I guess
Yeah,
actually they do, don't they?
do they?
I take it back. But, they're very hands-on, like, and they have fans with daggers,
Yeah.
so they're kind of old fashioned.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird because you have like all this tech, but you would rather fight with like these old school weapons.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you've always had the power to manipulate ice or wind or fire, like you don't really need to create weapons. You already have like all the weapons you need, you know?
Okay, I
If you
see.
think about like a world that had that from the beginning, then it's a little bit more plausible, like, oh, there's no modern firearms or, that kind of stuff.
I see because they didn't need to create it basically.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, okay, I gotcha. Okay, so wait, did we agree that both of us had 4 for this one or what did you rate it as?
Yeah, I gave it a 4, and believe you did too.
Okay, so before we end this episode, did you have any thoughts for casting?
I did not.
Louis Tan as
I don't think she really went into detail on their physical features that much.
I agree.
Um, we know that Robin is of Indian, South Asian uh,
Uh-huh.
persuasion. Obviously, our main cast is East Asian, as are the Ranganese. There was also a part when they're fighting where Mamoru's like surprised to see like the Ranganese look just like them.
Right.
Um, and there were like some others, like they did mention white people, but it seemed to me like it was said in a kind of a derogatory term, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, like that was interesting. That I don't know. I don't remember enough to say more about that. Um,
I think for the like I think I could cast off my memory. I would want to put Daniel Wu in one of these parts.
yeah, he could probably be like Takashi
Yeah.
Toru.
And then I would definitely want to put like Elodie Young. Do you know Elodie Young from she played Electra in the Daredevil show.
Yeah, I haven't really seen her in much.
She's pretty good. I would make her a contender for like a Misaki. And yeah, but Mamoru, that's kind of harder because like we're talking about 16 years old or something.
Yeah, they didn't really go into, his any distinguishing physical features like how tall he is, how he's built, what kind
Yeah.
of hair he does. Like I don't remember any distinguishers at all.
Oh,
I think
dude.
Takeru,
Yeah.
it, she kept saying like his features seemed like carved out of ice or something, which
Yeah.
I mean, it's a start, but it doesn't really tell you that much.
I got it, dude. It's Andrew Koji, man.
I
Cuz
mean,
like
yeah,
number 1, he huh?
you need someone who can do the physical stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But not just that. If you look at Andrew Koji's like roles recently, he's not he's that quiet guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like in Bullet Train.
Yeah, I recently saw Bullet Train. I was just thinking about it.
What'd you think?
Dude, Bullet Train is such a ridiculous movie, but it's super fun.
Yeah, that's fun. I gave it like 7 out of 10.
And dude, the father, Andrew Koji's what's his
Yeah,
name?
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah, he is dope. Like I love that guy. He's so good.
He's so typecast now. He has to have a sword. I'm like, well, like you can do other stuff too. I hope.
Yeah, I know, but like at the same time, like he's been making a lot of different samurai movies for a long time too. So,
Yeah.
and on top of that, I would almost make him Yukino Dai
Sure. Yeah.
because I feel like he's a little older. Like Yukino Dai seems like an older gentleman, teacher, trainer.
Yeah, but there's like I don't remember any like description, like physical descriptions of what he could look like,
Yeah,
which I
yeah,
guess leaves the door wide open for anyone.
yeah. I agree. I agree. I wish I could put Chow Yun Fat somewhere there too. Like just
Why not? He can be the blacksmith, the
Oh,
village.
who would be like a who's a really good Korean martial art? Wonbin maybe?
Oh, the man from nowhere.
Yeah, dude, he was so dope in that movie.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know if there's any like notable Korean action stars. They're out there. I just don't know their names.
Yeah, I
What
agree.
about what about um so you said Elodie Young from Misaki?
Yeah, who were you thinking?
Um
Don't say Michelle Yeoh. She's she's
she's
great,
in
but a little too old.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, is there anyone she could play though? Were there any
She
older?
she could play Takeru's mom like in a flashback scene cuz
Oh, that's not going to do her justice though.
I don't know. You can make her like one of the representatives from the government.
um what's his face? For who, what about Robin?
Oh,
Have you seen
Robin?
RRR?
No, I haven't. But like the main dude,
Which one? Aren't there
uh,
two of them?
n- yeah, there are. But they're like, there's one that's like super yoked.
Yeah, like whichever one.
Yeah,
One
just
works.
choose one of the above. But yeah, I overall, I definitely appreciated the read. It's like you said, it's unconventional, but there are moments of such tenderness and beauty to it that I think is definitely worth a visit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even if you're not into fantasy, I think it's worth picking up. Just like it takes risk. Like you have to give it that. If you don't give it anything at all, you can't deny that it takes its chances, and
Yeah, I agree.
you got to respect that.
Yeah, and if you even if you don't like fantasy and you like samurai movies and stuff like that, or if you like Mortal Kombat, this is still something that you can appreciate actually.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, all right. That is sort of Kaigen for you guys. Were there any themes that you wanted to go over or anything like that?
I mean, I think the main thing was grief. Since it's 2022, toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah. Strong female characters. Is that a theme?
I mean, no, it's just having a good character,
Yeah.
like that are both male and female. Like, yeah. Yeah, oh, and loyalty, right? Because a lot of characters, even when they learn that they're being deceived, they're like, well, we've been raised this way. Like, we worship, or we don't worship, but we serve the emperor. So even though I know like something's up, I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
So like they explore that. Yeah, I think there's a lot. Like I'm pretty sure there's some that I'm missing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's a super dense book. Like, yeah, a lot happens. So,
mhm.
but yeah, next up, do you mind if I talk about what we're reading next?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, next up, we are doing the next installment of the Monstrous comic book series. We are on volume number 3, and tag along as we complain more about anachronistic vocabulary in a fantasy world.
No, I think volume two was a lot better in that
Dude,
regard.
volume 2 is definitely really cool because I think the world building wasn't as, it wasn't as much of a verbal dump.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see about volume 3. So join us next time as we read Monstrous Volume 3 by Marjorie Liu and art by Sena Takeda. And again, check out Sword of Kaigen by ML Wang. And hope to talk to you guys soon. All right. Bye.
Thank